a bucket list is not just about ticking a whole bunch of cool stuff off. It's really about how we reverse engineer every aspect of our lives in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's really about the growth of the person on this journey towards these self-imposed destinations. But more importantly, and this is what I want people to get excited about, what it's really about is about the person that exists on the other side of the bucket list. That's the person we do not know yet. That is the person that I want all your listeners, all the watchers, to get curiously freaking excited about, because we do not know what our potential is. We have no idea what we are truly fucking capable of. And why wait to find that out?
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Few with Boo. That's me, and Sean, my mate Shawnee. G'day, Sean. How are you today, mate?
Great, Boo. Great to have another episode underway.
Oh, I'll tell you what, very excited by this. So I was doing some research before today's guest, and I discovered this little fun fact. Someone out there who had a big brain, maybe had a psychology degree, did a little bit of research, and they were asking this question out to the broader community, and that was, have you achieved your life's ambition, your life's goal? And cleverly, what they used to measure this metric was New Year's resolutions. And they said, how many people achieve their New Year's resolution? And they came up with a single-digit outcome, only 8%. 8% of people achieve their life ambition. And I was surprised by that. I mean, that's not a big number, is it, mate?
Absolutely not. It's like, what are we all doing?
What is everyone doing? What are the 92% doing? I mean, they must be wandering, well, not wandering the streets of Sydney anymore, but putting their grey coats on, their black umbrellas, black shoes, and just shuffling around, staring at the screens on their smartphone. So I thought maybe that would be, I think we've got the perfect person on the show today to talk about how to be that 8%. So with no further ado, I want to introduce our guest for today. He is an absolute legend. I had a chance to participate in his podcast the other week. It's Trav Bell, the bucket list guy. G'day, Trav. Welcome to the show.
Boys, Boo, Sean, stoked to be on, guys.
Welcome, Trav. Great to have you on the show.
And no doubt, mate, surf's up and you're making a huge sacrifice to be taking a break from fulfilling your own bucket list
really.
to fill Sean and my bucket list.
It's not that big. It's all good.
Oh, it's great. Well, thanks,
I've got
mate.
all the time in the world.
You could have taken that opportunity to go, yep.
Yeah, wrap it up.
But being very honest. So, Trav, what is it about people that they fail to be that 8%?
You know what? It's an interesting segue, that, because that's the problem with goal setting. Goal setting. It should be about goal achieving, right? There's something actually built into fail already by just goal setting or setting a resolution, rather than just doing. It's a completely different beast. So look, but most of the world, unfortunately, are disengaged. Sorry. And they're not, what that means is they're not engaged in their life. Now I say, obviously I talk about bucket lists, but I say a bucket list is a tangible life plan where our career plan or our business plan should fit into our life plan and not be the other way around, really bringing home that work to live principle. But if you look at the work piece, something like 89% of people over in America, about 70% here in Australia, same in Canada, same in the UK, 70, 89% of what they call disengaged at work, and that's got to have an upward ripple effect into disengagement in life. But I reckon if you're engaged in life, it will have a direct waterfall effect into what you do at work. There's a lot of people, you ask most people what their goals are in life, and I did this when I started as the bucket list guy. I was going to say when I came out as the bucket list guy.
Did you tell your mum and dad?
Yeah, I did. I even registered a website. Yeah, they were proud of me. They said, live your truth there, son. But at the end of the day, you ask most people, and most people will respond. They say, "What's your goals? Why do you get up in the morning? What is your reason for work? What is your reason for money? What is your reason for wanting to have more time? And that's what business is. I don't have to tell you guys this, but that's what our businesses, our jobs are. Our jobs and business are designed to produce two major things, and that is cash flow and also time flow. If you ask most people what their goals are, that's if they're optimized, by the way. And another fun fact is if you actually love what you do, I think that's the holy grail, and it's hitting your values, which is like your internal rule book. If you love what you do, it's hitting your values, and it's producing the time and money cash flow, flow, then I think that's the holy grail, right? But a lot of people can't say that.
Mm.
And so you ask most people what their goals are in life. It's especially here in Australia, it's pay off the house, put the kids through school, do a bit of travel when I'm older. Yeah, and
Jump on
possibly sicker.
jump on the Fairstar, go for a cruise.
Yeah, get coronavirus, and good luck.
I have to say it's that, and I'm not actually surprised that it's only 8%, right? Because working directly with small businesses in my inner circle group, every single person that comes into my group, not one of them actually is clear on their why. So why they're actually doing what they're doing. They don't have a mission, so they don't have a goal that they're trying to achieve at all. So they're just in there doing the running on the hamster wheel, and they get off, they go to sleep, they get up, and they do it again the next day. And it's interesting how hard it is for most people to actually go to the point of going, well, who am I to dream bigger than that? That's normal, isn't it? Like, I go to work, I come home, and I take the kids to soccer, and I don't do anything much else other than that, and then go back to work again. And it seems to be, it's very much a prominent part of I guess the psyche of owners and employees at large.
The worst thing about that too is they design the freaking hamster wheel.
Yep.
That's true. It's not there, is it? It's not. Someone doesn't park it in your house.
No, unless you bought the business. But at the end of the day, I said the ladder. I've got a story of my breakdown before breakthrough moment, and that's actually when I got this tattoo, which is, if it is to be, it is up to me. And around that time, I realised I was up the.
I might do that, actually. That's a good point, Trav. I like how you did that. I just bought a notebook today, but I tend to lose these. So maybe I need to start whacking it on my skin, and I'll remember some stuff better. I like what you've done there. That's smart.
Oh, definitely. I'd hate to see what you write in that notebook, mate. But and how much skin have you got available? And the pretty pictures that you might draw in there too. Good luck.
It's certainly not a work of art, mate. I'd certainly get some stares, I reckon, if I put what I put in this on my body.
Couple of tramp stamps. But yeah, like at the end of the day, what I was going to say that people are people are up the ladder of success, and they say the ladder of success up the wrong wall, but they built the ladder. And so one of the quotes that I did a TED talk a few years ago, and probably the most quoted quote out of that is, people are dying at 40 and being buried at 80. Now, you've probably heard that sort of thing before, but a lot of people just give up on life. That's what we have, this midlife crisis. But that, people are sleepwalking through their life. They're living by default, not by design. They're just existing, they're not living. And one of my biggest things is people are just so busy, especially these days, busy on their to-do list. They're not busy on their bucket list.
Yep.
So when people get an opportunity and they're so busy on that treadmill, trying to catch up on their to-do list, that it's not until they get, them or a loved one gets a cancer diagnosis that's suddenly the thing that wakes them up out of this, trance. And that's my whole mission, is to wake people up before they get given a use-by date.
What was it you said? You had I suppose a breakdown to breakthrough moment. What happened for you that created a shift? What was it that gave you the opportunity?
We're going to go there, mate. We go deep. Sean always goes deep. Boom! Straight into the emotional heartbreak.
I don't care. I talk about it all the time. No, but at the end of the day, my first business, and this is probably where I met you, Sean, years ago, is my first business. I was the first to franchise personal fitness training studios in Australia. So I did that. I was out of university, phys ed at uni, started personal training back in the early 90s. One of the first personal trainers kind of running around Australia, in Melbourne anyway. And there was really only a handful of us in Melbourne, and it was this whole new industry of personal training and outside, breaking away from the gym industry. So I started with one client, built it up to tens of thousands across Australia. We had a chain of personal training studios, about 300 personal trainers under that brand. Studios everywhere, blah, blah, blah. It was, it wasn't exactly like this, in terms of the success trajectory. It was more like, God, yeah, smashing it. And then, how it goes. Yeah, and then back here, and then up there, and down and up. So, but there was, some quite cancerous people, some other stuff going on in my life. One thing led to another, a bit of a downward spiral. And I found myself, I went into a state of mild depression. When I say, depression, compared to what I've heard since, mine was relatively mild. But instead of going on heavy antidepressants, and this is one of my drivers for why I do today, what I do today, instead of going on heavy antidepressants and basically putting a Band-Aid over the top of it, I wanted to get to the root cause, my mindset of what I was going through. So in those times, you got to force yourself to kind of get into that learning space of that growth kind of mindset. So I went to, personal development seminars. That's where I think I met Sean. If you put on a course back then, I would have done it, run to the back of the room, upgraded, run to the back of that room, and upgraded, and then again and again. So, I think I was going to say invested so much money and worked through a lot of my stuff. So I walked on fire, hugged it out and high-fived with strangers on weekends, bent the arrow, broke the bar and punched the board, all that sort of stuff. But learnt about NLP, life coaching, positive psychology, a Carnegie principle, all of these things, law of attraction, all of that stuff, learnt from the gurus, and really worked through a lot of my own stuff.
Can I just ask a question about that, Trav? Because obviously there's a lot of schools of thought around that sort of personal development, right? And by and large, I come from most of what I've done is either in the military or a corporate background or working in multi-million-dollar enterprise, right? And most people look at those worlds and recoil from it. And it's too much. But
yeah,
with your experience, and obviously you're talking to it in a positive way, how much value did you derive personally from investing into that journey?
Well, mate, my learning started after university. It really did. When you become your own, I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've never worked for anyone in my life. And I was a kid swimming teacher for beer money during uni, but that was about it. But I've never had a corporate job or anything like that. Straight out of uni, first clients, and it just went from there. So I guess and because entrepreneurship can be quite lonely as well, that's where my tribe were, like whether it be business events, whether it be, personal development, and you're always learning. And I've got a growth mindset where I'm certainly not going to sit around and go, oh, I know it all. And I haven't got an ecosystem such as a military mate to teach me, to pull me into line. And, I was kind of making up my own rules, which is a lot of what entrepreneurs do. And that's why they, join inner circles, and that's why they get around same. So at the end of the day, I always invested, in coaches, mentors, etc., just to increase, to get motivated, to get inspired, to get new ideas. And I've never stopped, mate. I'm currently reading, one of the things on my bucket list right now, like this year, is I'm reading 52 books in a year. And literally behind me are the ones that I've done so far. And this is not just a Zoom background here, by the way. There's actual real books.
Three-dimensional, yes.
Real book, yes, pretty real. I haven't read any of them, to be honest. It's just good for the effect. But I'm reading 52 books in a year, and so I wake up every morning and I read out loud. And my partner and I have a coffee at 4:30 in the morning, and Literally just
I thought you were going
been.
to say have a cuddle, but coffee's good, mate.
Yeah, it depends how good the book is. The but then we, like just having that habit, having that always learning kind of mindset is really what I've always had. But in that time, after about a year, 2 years of really intense kind of personal development stuff, and I just put it under that umbrella of personal development. I'm a qualified NLP, I'm a qualified life coach, but Christian, here's the thing: I don't even call myself a life coach because, wanker. And at the end of the day, uh, that's what I do though with a lot of people. But I still, because of the skepticism around it, I certainly don't put on a business card. But it wasn't until a friend of mine actually said at the end of all this, "Hey mate, Trav, why don't you teach this shit?" And that actually helped me compartmentalize why I was there in the first place. Because I'm an educator. I love, I've got no fear around public speaking. And I went, shit, that's what I'm meant to. Okay, I've worked through some of my stuff. Why not? So I put on a talk, and I was so freaking nervous at the Western Bulldogs room over in the western side of Melbourne there, and I nearly had to pay the 40 people to come to that talk.
It's like my band days.
And yeah, oh God, I was shit. And I packaged all the stuff that I learnt in these, in some of the stuff I've been going through and some of my entrepreneur stuff as well. So about halfway through, I started sharing with the group the fact that I'd had a list to do before I die, actually written down since I was 18. And this is only 10 years ago, right? And then I started sharing some of the reasons I get out of bed in the morning, why I make decisions quick, why I build businesses quick, and et cetera, et cetera. I said, who else has got one of these lists to do before you die, like actually written down? I was like, nah, I was the only freak in the room. So well, what the
Well, I
hell
bought
do
my
you get
notebook,
up?
mate.
That's why you got the notebook. Yeah, hopefully there's something written in it. The, like anyone can wave around a book, mate.
Yeah.
Come on.
And, I don't want to open it because it is remarkably blank at this point in time. So
There you go.
It's your new one. You fill the last one up.
yeah.
Yeah. But the point is that right at the end, that really inspired the group, and I told them some stories of travels and different things that I've done in my life, and I thought everyone had one of these lists to do before I die, actually written down, not just in their head, swimming around with their daily to-do list. Because guess which one gets done first, right? And so right at the end of that, a friend of mine, a participant said, "Oh, how's all this list to do before you die stuff? It's like a bucket list. You're like the bucket list guy." I went, ping, light bulb moment. Went home that night and registered the bucketlistguy.com. I've been doing that for the last 10 years.
Did you get the superhero outfit made then at the same time, or?
Yes, I did.
You did. Excellent.
Yes, I did.
Just double checking.
A lot of buckets hanging off limbs.
Definitely there'd be a good cape there, no doubt.
Yeah, Travis, one of the things that when I saw you, let's call it, come out as a bucket list guy, when you started to promote yourself on social media and things like that, the one thing that I noticed, having been around that space, at least at that time, for probably 6 or 7 years, it's over 10 years now, but the one thing that I know that it gave me I suppose a bit of a transparency into was the fact that most of the courses, most of the speakers, most of the content is driven about how to get further, right? How to grow your business, how to make money, how to do, and it's what was distinctly different about the bucket list guy concept was that this is actually about getting people to dream, not just to do, and that was a very different take on what it was all about, and I remember seeing that when you first came out. I'm like, that's such a good idea. That's what people actually need, because seeing it in small business owners all the time, where they just lock themselves in their own cage and they got the key in their pocket and they just still stay in the cage.
But people also believe that that's what it is. It's like it's meant to be a grind. I think people make these
the hustle.
Yeah, they make these flippant comments, right? Like, running your own business, you've got no idea how hard it is. You've got to be prepared. You're in a relationship. Relationships are hard. It's not all. And they forget. Yeah, but there's also joy. There's also the upside of the hard work.
Delete. Don't hang out with them anymore.
Yeah, it's like cutting down a forest of trees with a butter knife, right? That's going to suck. if you get
Jeez,
if you get
hang on. Give me a
chainsaws
minute.
or bulldozers,
Jesus.
right, it's going to be much
That's
easier.
so deep, mate.
That,
This
that
is
better be
strong.
on your Instagram this afternoon, Shawnee.
Big quote.
But the
Big
thing
quote.
is, like, what
I
I
can't
said
even
is the
comprehend that.
people
It's a
are doing
Friday.
that. They don't have the tools. But they say it's hard. They believe their friends at a barbecue that it's hard because they're trying to do it on their own, and they're not actually believing that there's more possible. Now, I did a bit of a bucket list item myself 3 years ago when I made a decision, having never camped or forward drove ever, to sell up 70% of stuff we owned, got in a caravan and went around Australia for a year. That was incredibly challenging. But what it taught me was I managed to grow my business, my personal branding business, 400%, working 10 to 12 hours a week in the middle of nowhere with the crappiest data and phone reception you've ever seen. Right. So for me, it was that thing again. You can do it and it's not hard if you do it the right way. But if you got to know how to do it, I'd had 20 years of experience in business prior to that gave me the knowledge. If you don't have it, find someone who can give it to you quicker, because you'll be able to get to those bucket list items sooner.
100%. And I mean, like, essentially this is, psychology. This is, really what I teach is positive psychology, and that is versus regressive psychology of trying to get people normal. They use therapy or drugs to get them normal. Okay, I'm a serial killer. All right, to get you normal, we need to do this therapy or give you this drug so you're not a serial killer, you can function in society. That's regressive kind of psychology. We go back. But positive psychology, which is what a lot of corporates are obviously, and Christian, you would be all over this, mate. This is the psychology of performance, because we don't want to be normal. Who the hell wants to be normal? So it's about identifying, going to the strengths, identifying what gives us meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, and experience more gratitude and mindfulness, and doing more of that. Building that into your life, into your work a lot more, so you perform and you be happier. The happiness guy was a little bit lame for me, but essentially,
Yeah. Who wants to be happy?
No.
No, but
And
unpack that for a second, Trav, because I think it's really important.
That's what I teach. It's basically trying, helping people be happier, because, look at the stats. The stats are scary. Depression, again, anxiety, suicides, youth suicides, the overprescription of antidepressants. And now we've got this thing called the loneliness epidemic, which is real. Google it. It's the disconnect, it's the adverse effect of social media, and it's really, really having a big impact. So these stats are my drivers for why I do what I do, and why I've scaled around the world with the message, is to combat that, maybe change the narrative, at least through this lens of bucket list.
Yeah, I've had that loneliness issue for many years, but it's more personality based than digital. Just to unpack that positive psychology piece, Trav, because again, for my journey as well, what I've noticed is and one of the things that kind of put me off the Tony Robbins kind of world was I had a few friends that went and did it, and they'd be super positive and get this positive mindset, but about 3 weeks later it'd be gone because they didn't do anything. And what's the difference between thinking positively, positive psychology, and doing positively? Because I reckon that's the big missing link, is people, the bucket list is doing something, right? So how important is it to not just think and do?
It's a really good question. I think, everyone comes out of that as an evangelist. And, I spoke on stage with Darren Hardy, who used to run success.com. Over in San Diego, and he actually put up a stat. Now he was, with Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins back in the day, and he said 85% of people who go to seminars don't do anything. I don't know where he got the stat from, but if there's anyone qualified to know that, he would. So everyone that leaves these things 8 foot and bulletproof, but they don't do anything. I reckon the best motivation seminar, maybe Christian, might want to, joint venture on this. Just take a gun, like literally into the seminar, and just threaten everyone, or threaten to, take out their kids or their cat or their dog, and say, if you don't take action, you're going to get it. It's called mafia motivation. People will take action.
As a joint venture, you want me with the gun, right? So.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So I'll go to jail. You'll be able to ride that wave.
Mate. Yeah. I'm just wearing the hat. So
great idea, Trev. I'll be on board with that one.
But it is pain. It's real pain that gets people, and it's the bottom level of pain, and that's why this whole, the whole bucket list is flawed as well, because it's, it's around this movie about two blokes who get given a cancer diagnosis and then they write a bucket list. Hey, dickhead, little late, shit movie, because you should have started it before. But it takes a such as a diagnosis or we get given a use by date to get off our ass and go and do stuff. I mean, shit, that's the whole reason why I exist, is to help people wake up. So when I do, before they get given this use by date, so what I try and do is give everyone, when I go and speak, give them a virtual cancer diagnosis. Give them a real reality check of how little time they've got left. I'm doing my bit. It's woken up a number of people, over the years in all parts of the world. But we need that level of pain, and to really kinesthetically really get a visceral feeling for how little time we've got left, because we do take that for granted. And it's not until we get that wake up call from us or a loved one that we do get off our ass. So it is pain. There's only a few people that are toward motivated rather than away from motivated. Most of us want to get away from pain, and very few people have a big vision for themselves and go towards that. It's normally pain that gets people started.
Absolutely.
But the personal training trick is toward and away from is, all right, I understand that you want to lose weight for this and this and this reason. You can't fit into your clothes coming into summer. That's all well and good. Shape up for summer syndrome is what we call it in the gym industry. I understand that you can't fit into your clothes anymore. That's the pain. Cool. Or you just saw yourself in a photo, blah, blah, blah. Or a doctor in a white coat has just opened up your chest and said, I think you should do something, champ. That's the level of pain that gets people to come into a gym. But it won't sustain them unless you it'll get them started, but it won't sustain them unless you pin something in the future for them. All right, let's concentrate on your first 5K run. Let's get that feeling of toward motivation going a lot more than away from. Because away from, if they don't break their same cycle of that pain and that don't break away from that ecosystem that supports it, then yeah, they'll recoil.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean,
to their default.
Pain and fear are both great motivators, and I've seen the same thing. Despite how big the carrot is, quite often it's still not big enough a motivator. However, one of the things that I was taught by a good friend of mine, probably about 20 years ago now. He said to me, which is what I see is very similar to your concept of having the bucket list, is he said, always have something to look forward to. Because it improves how you show up today. And I'm like, that's really
what?
profound.
It's crazy, Sean, because, like one of the most common things that not just myself and we've got now certified bucket list coaches in 22 countries around the world. And one of the most common things that we'll hear is that people saying, thank you for giving me permission to dream again. Fuck, what's happened?
Just gets beaten out of us, doesn't it? Like that this is normal.
What's happened?
And this is normal. Here's your box. Stay in it.
We just haven't got any space for it. Look, if people are watching, listening to this, one of the things that I want you to do is literally just write a bucket list down. Like, that's it. If you actually, and Christian might want to start with that blank notepad. But at the end of the day, it's about putting pen to paper and making a conscious effort to separate your daily to-do list from your bucket list and actually writing it down. Because, by writing it down, there's actually statistics that back this up. If you actually use, remember these things?
Oh, I love those, mate. They give you those in the Air Force from day one. And I've had one. I've had one of those for 26 years.
What's it called?
It's called a multicolour pen.
It's a pen. And what's this stuff here? What's that?
That might be paper.
That's paper. So there you go. So if you actually, I'm being facetious, of course, but if you actually write shit down, which a lot of people don't even do, we do because we're around goals and we're around all this sort of stuff. We do, but that's not common. It's just not common.
But also get that multicoloured pen. Because no joke, the multicolored pen, you can start to prioritize. You got your reds, your bucket list, your blacks, your day to day. People underestimate the power of color there.
Oh, they do. They do.
Hey, yeah,
We're
guys, I
about to
just
do
want
an
to talk.
affiliate code on this, mate, or what are we doing?
I just want to go back to something that you both mentioned, because it's an area that I'm getting really fascinated about, and it's the difference between the big win and the small win. You mentioned before, Trav, you get your heart attack, you run your 5K. What are your thoughts on people and motivation when they come up with that annual goal, the big one? I'm going to run a marathon this year. And then they go out and they run their first run in 5 years, and they get 500 meters down the road and they give up. Like, what's the difference between I think people make big mistakes with goal setting. I think goal setting is important, but wanting to be a millionaire by Friday is an unrealistic goal. So, Trev, how do you manage expectation with people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you know what? One of the I won't butcher it, but I reckon one of the best books around that is this Atomic Habits by James Clear. Amazing. And it's about the littlest, the tiniest little thing that you can do that is crazy small that you can do. So people don't even write goals down because they don't want to disappoint themselves.
Yeah.
Because they've written it down in the past, they're disappointed. But the fact is, they've written down these things that are just, oh, run a marathon. Yeah, all right, good. But where's like if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you're not, you know, you got to just focus on this first step so you don't slip over. You know, you just got to focus on that achievement, you know, like that. What is the tiniest of tiniest, tiny thing? It's ridiculous to even think about it, but what is the tiniest thing that will give you that sense of, you know, that positive reinforcement? You know, if it's just 500 meters today, cool. Do 600 tomorrow. Do
I think it was
700 the
I
next.
think it was Atomic Habits where he said something like, if you fail to achieve the habit, it's because the system to create the habit is where the weakness is. It's not your willpower. It's not, it's actually your system is weak in helping you to form new habits. And that was the biggest distinction I took away from that book. And it was really profound for me. And I've definitely implemented lots more little systems. Those 1%ers, they all add up, and they just start becoming default, like brushing your teeth. Like
And
you don't
it
even
sounds
notice.
like it sounds like a footy game, like, oh, it's all about the 1%ers, but it is true that makes up the 100%. So, and the other book I'm reading right now is actually The One Thing by Gary Keller,
Yeah, another
and
great book.
that's equally as amazing, is just concentrate on one thing. And we live in such a world of distractions and notifications and subscriptions and that sort of thing. It's very easy to get thrown off track about that, for that one thing. So one of the after setting goals and stuff with clients and bucket list items, I'm like, all right, well, unsubscribe and turn off all notifications from everything that does not support that goal.
And do it.
And actually do it. And better yet, and I used to do this in my seminars, and let's go through your phone as well. Let's delete everyone that you don't talk to anymore. And let's cull some people. And so just in doing those three things, people feel so much lighter and so much more focused.
No, it's a great point.
And
That
then
focus is so
and then
hard.
just do 90-day sprints.
Yep. Oh, I love the 90-day sprint. Mate, yeah, we definitely need to collab there, Trav. Now, while we're talking, because we're talking bucket list and death and various other things, I've got onto the World Bank here that maps out average life expectancy in Australia. And in the 70s, it was around 70 years of age. And now it's 83. So, Trav, our generation, we've got 13 extra years up our sleeve. Do you reckon we're optimising that 13 years? I mean, you think 13 years, couple of $100,000 a year, I'm not really good at math, but there's at least 2.5 mil nearly to play with there in terms of holidays and bucket lists and.
No, well, I think, but the fact is that, well, sure, we might have extra time, but why are the statistics still climbing? I believe in delayed gratification, but I also believe in instant gratification as well, not in a hedonistic way, but people being happier now.
But you can squeeze in.
We're living in this situation, right? Like, we're sold this concept of, I'll sacrifice now to enjoy later, which is called retirement, right? I'll sacrifice. I'm talking about my dad here. I'll sacrifice now, I'll work hard now, and I'll enjoy later. Well, why not? Why not get some flexibility in what you're doing right now in your business or your job or whatever it is in your career, and be happier now?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, bring those 13 years forward, right? Have them now. Don't tap them on. Don't retire at 60, 73. Right? Like, bring the 10. Use those years while you're feeling good.
I think one of the saddest things. I think honestly one of the saddest things, and you guys would know this, is people have worked their guts out. They've retired or they've sold their business. They've got a good exit out of it, and then they've had 1 to 5 good years, and then they're gone. Like they've slogged it, and that brings tears to my eyes just thinking that people have sacrificed, and in the last probably 5-10 years of that slog, they probably hated and they lost passion for it, and hence the exit, and they were tired and blah blah blah. But that just depresses me.
One
I'm
of the
sure
things
they've
I
set up
saw, Trav,
family and that sort of thing, but shit, oh God, enjoy now. Like enjoy now. Like build a life. So do you enjoy now? So work, sure, work on your bucket, work on your to-do lists. Don't get me wrong, but also let's start crossing off some of the things on your bucket list. And this isn't just about. Here's the thing, this whole bucket list concept. And I've been doing this for 10 years, and I've stayed in that lane. And I've always said, a bucket list is not just about ticking a whole bunch of cool stuff off. It's really about how we reverse engineer every aspect of our lives in order to make this stuff come to fruition. It's really about the growth of the person on this journey towards these self-imposed destinations. But more importantly, and this is what I want people to get excited about, what it's really about is about the person that exists on the other side of the bucket list. That's the person we do not know yet. That is the person that I want all your listeners, all the watchers, to get curiously freaking excited about, because we do not know what our potential is. We have no idea what we are truly fucking capable of. And why wait to find that out?
I couldn't agree
Why
more.
not push everything that you possibly can and be absolutely fucking obsessed about it? Why not?
and the time is
You
now.
wouldn't
It's
give
a
that
person of the
advice.
other sex, of course. Then you dial it
You
back a
wouldn't
bit.
say this to your kids, would you? You'd be like, oh yeah, play small and you'll be right. You'll be a good citizen. No, take every opportunity and blow it up.
And you got to do it now. And one of the things that I saw, Trav, on my caravan trip, which was really quite heart wrenching, was the number of retired couples who had their brand new Land Rover, whatever it was, and their brand new caravan. They've retired. This is one of the things that was on their bucket list after they spent their whole lives working, and they back it in, and they're not actually strong enough to get off the back of the car.
Oh mate,
And it's like they
nothing
can't enjoy
sadder than going
themselves.
to Machu Picchu and seeing everyone actually like not even walk up to Machu Picchu.
What's the point of retirement? Why even have that Why even have that event in life? I mean, just charge until it's over.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like I being the creator of my own rules here with my business. I've just never got it. I'd never got it, and I've done a lot of bucket listing with my dad. There's a whole other story there. But Dad and I, he was, he at 65.
Can
He
I stop you there, Trev?
retired.
Let's
Yeah,
unpack Dad. Because one of the things we haven't come across or had a discussion about yet on your life journey is your journey with adoption and Dad. And so I'll let you finish that. But I've been sitting here waiting to go with this question. You mentioned a family member. I'm like, boom, that's it. Launch the gherkin. So why don't you?
That's an interesting saying.
Why don't you? The gherkin is the distraction, mate. The comment. The. So let's. While we're having this conversation, mate, why not sort of share that journey with us as well, and that journey of discovery?
It's probably a reason why I'm an entrepreneur, why I do what I do, why I've got this mission. Because Dad was I'm adopted, 1973. Always knew I was adopted, and I adopted into a family down here in Ocean Grove. And so I had a great childhood, no big chip on my shoulder to find out, my real parents or anything like that. grew up surfing, swimming, surf lifesaving, all that sort of good stuff, and provided for. But mum and dad sacrificed, and dad, in particular, he was a wharfie, MUA, here to stay, the whole bit. And the thing is, I knew that for a lot of years he was not happy doing his job, although, there's some good problem solving in there. But he worked on the tugboats and he worked on the big ships that came into Geelong ports. And he, he was just kind of angry for a lot of years. And I'm like, in my influential years, I was, probably unconsciously picking up that work is not a good thing. Working hard. Maybe even there is an issue around working hard, but he sacrificed. And, I, being adopted and being an entrepreneur my whole life, him and I he's like a man's man. He can fix anything. We've renovated a house together since, and, he can fix anything. Me, no dirt on those. Look at that, fresh. So I got to play to your strengths. But at the end of the day, I bet, what's this? That's a hammer, son. So that's where I'm at. At the end of the day, the two of us didn't really get along growing up, if you know what I mean. Spoke different languages. Until one day I found myself in a light aircraft. It was him, myself, and his two best mates, and we're en route to a sandy airstrip in Melaleuca in southwest Tasmania. And it dropped us off. The website said pack 8 to 15 days worth of food. Dropped us off, plane pissed off, and our quest was to walk back to a place called Cockle Creek, which is the southernmost town in Australia, along the South Coast Track in southwest Tassie. So we did that, and I won't go into the real nuts and bolts of the thing, but we really did bond. And we're about 500 meters away from the finish, walking on the boardwalks, and I was behind Dad, and I said, "Dad, mate, I've got something to tell you." He said, "Yep." I'm not a man of emotion. Yep. I said, "Dad, this is, I was just sort of starting on this whole bucket list thing too. Dad, this has been on my bucket list. To do this walk with you has been on my bucket list for the last, few years. I'm stoked that we've been able to do it." And what I thought was going to be a father-son movie moment, he just gone, "Yep, all right, cool." And I'm like, "Dad,
leaning in for the hug."
I got nothing. And then we finished. We got the selfies. We did had lunch and that sort of thing. And Dad's gone, "Oh, Trav, what's a bucket list?" I said, "Oh shit, well, it's all the stuff you want to do before you die." And he turned to me and he had a tear in his eye and he said, "Oh, I'm glad you put on there because it's been fucking special." Still no hug. Still waiting for the hug.
That was his type of hug, though, yeah.
And we're on the bus back to Hobart, and he said, "What else is on this list of yours, Trav?" It's got me thinking. And I said, "Oh, I've got like 300 things on it, Dad. Look, this is my new thing. I got out of personal training. I'm starting this thing and doing a lot of speaking and that sort of thing." And he's like, right, okay. And I said, "Look, I'll get back to you. There's quite a few things on there. Might involve you." About 6 months later, I used to cycle with this friend of mine who's a New Zealander, and they all think they're a Sir Edmund Hillary, don't they? And so he's a mountaineer. And he's got no toes on his left foot because he lost them and heli-backed out of some mountain on in outback Pakistan or something. Anyway, Grant said, "Mate, I'm going to Mount Everest. You should come." Easy, champ. I'm a surfer. I don't climb mountains here. And no. What you can do, you join us. We're a full-on crew. We're going to, there's 13 going to the top. And what you can do is you come along on the expedition and you can peel off. We go through Tibet on the northern side, not the Nepalese side. Go through Tibet. You can peel off at base camp, or you can come up to advanced base camp, which is 6,500 meters. I said, "How much does it cost? How much does that cost, Grant? This is unreal." and he gave me the figure, and I went, I can't put that together. And he said, you'll find a way. You know you will, because you want to go. And I say here, when the why is strong enough, the how will work itself out, and it did. And Dad, yep. Well, mate, you know that bucket list we were talking about down in yeah. Well, mate, we're going to Mount Everest, going through Tibet. Trav, where the fuck's Tibet? Anyway, look, it's part of China. It's like what didn't used to be part of China. Doesn't matter. But then he said something really poignant. He said, Trav, you realise I've never been out of Australia before. I said, exactly, mate. That's why we're going. So off we went. We did that. Mount Everest base camp, advanced base camp. He was fine. Altitude sickness. I was shit. Doesn't matter how fit you are. I was parked over the bowl every morning throwing up. Altitude sickness. But since doing advanced base camp on Everest, we went and did Kokoda. We finished the day before Anzac, before the dawn service in Papua New Guinea, the Bamana War Cemetery. Absolutely amazing. I took 12 other bucket listers from my community over to do that item with me. The morning of my 40th birthday was spent with Dad as well on Machu Picchu after doing the Inca Trail, a few days beforehand. And just recently, or not that recently, a few years ago now, we did Mount Kilimanjaro over in Africa, and I had Dad do that with me. This time, he suffered from the altitude sickness, actually nearly killed him. But this time I was fine. Game Drive Reserve in Kruger National Park with Mum and Dad, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. And so, this whole bucket list thing, mate, it's bonded my dad and I, and now we're best mates.
Yeah, and working hard wouldn't have done that.
You know what? And the reason why I tell all of that long-winded story is because we've had many a time to chat on the trail, and he just admitted, he sacrificed. He should have taken opportunity. He should have spent more time with us whilst he had it. He had the flexibility, but just wasn't programmed to ask for it. It wasn't programmed to then just venture off and travel. It was all about paying off the house, putting us through school, and maybe one day retiring, with a big superannuation payout. And he regrets that, and that's what I've learned. And that's what I see in so many other people, in their ability not to, just to let go and upset the apple cart, unbelieve the story that you've led yourself to believe, and do things differently. Maybe get out of that ecosystem that you find yourself in, where you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or at least keeping up with the Joneses, metaphorically, doing what they do. Seek other examples of how this work and life blend is actually happening.
So, Trav, it obviously sounds like the concept is, very, very positive. I mean, I've utilized that in my life, and I've definitely seen positive impact from it. Do you suggest just getting a pen and a bit of paper, and just writing a list of stuff, or is there a particular framework you feel actually works better that would give people a clearer how, and maybe remove a little bit more resistance?
So I love podcasting with you, Sean. You're there. You've got these deep, insightful things. And all I've got in the back of my mind was, imagine if your last name was Jones. Who would you keep up with? The Bells? I reckon you'd set a pretty decent target. I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, mate. Yeah, that's good. There's a good combination we've got going here, I reckon.
Such a philosophical, deep Friday morning thing. Who do the Joneses actually keep up with? Oh, great.
Sorry, Sean.
Anyway,
sorry, mate.
I'm gonna cut to the. Actually, here it is. To answer your question, look at this. Plugging the book.
Excellent.
So this is what I speak about. This My Bucket List Blueprint, right? It's a 12-letter acronym for how to create a personally meaningful and holistic bucket list. And I do this myself. I do this with my kids. I do this with everyone that I come into contact with. I did the TED Talk on it. But I recommend that people buy the book, and I've written it in a way where they can actually use it as a workbook, as a guide, to actually unpack everything that's buried deep in them. And it helps them really extract and articulate this personally meaningful and holistic list. And so the first step is to actually write it down. Use this as a guide. Write it down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. Separate your daily to-do list from your bucket list. And the process of actually writing it makes it more conscious. So you're actually by writing it down, you're actually typing it into Google right now, and funnily enough, you'll see the world a little bit different. You're a little bit more, actually a lot differently, because Google search, you punch something into Google, and that's what you get. You mention something near your phone, you're going to get ads. You know how it works. But the fact is, we're not punching in anything right now. We're not searching for
So where can
anything
we get
right
it?
now. So wonder why these things don't. You put in Mount Everest, I can guarantee that in your circle of influence, you'll listen to more conversations about Mount Everest. You'll look online about it. You'll look at social media, and now your filters are tuned in to focus more on that particular item. But the fact is that people aren't doing that. They're not even punching it into Google right now. So, but here's the trick. What's easy to do is easy not to do, right?
Yep.
That's why people
Absolutely.
don't do it, because
Yep.
I'll get around to that.
And what we put our attention on expands. And as you say, as you start to have it there, you start to build, as you said, these conversations, or synchronistically someone comes across your path and like, hang on, that could help me achieve that.
And
that
that's the
outcome.
basis of NLP, right? We distort, generalize, we compartmentalize all the bits of information that comes into our line of sight, and our attention. We are in the attention arbitrage business now. We are. What are we focusing attention on? Our attention on.
So where can we get the
Are we
book?
serving our bucket list? Are we serving our to-do list? What are we doing?
How do you do your bucket list in COVID, mate? I mean, how do you do Everest? How do you do? What's the virtual bucket list look like?
Well, glad you asked, because that's why I wrote this whole bucket list blueprint. It's an acronym, so it's MY, my bucket list, right? So it's not all about travel, and this is the biggest misconception. This is why I wrote this thing, so it gives people things to look forward to that don't require a lot of time, money, and travel. Travel is only one of the 12. So the My Bucket List acronym goes, M, meet a personal hero. Y, your proud achievements. B, buy that special something. U, ultimate challenges. C, conquer a fear. K, kind acts for others. E, express yourself. T, take lessons. L, leave a legacy. I, idiotic stuff. S, satisfy curiosity. And T is the travel adventures. A lot of people think that bucket list is all about travel. And I've been on a lot of podcasts and shows and blah, blah, blah over COVID, because, it's not just about travel. There's a heap of other stuff. And people have been, after reading the book and everything, people have been sending me their bucket list, and there's some super weird shit out there that people want to do. But there's some oh my God. What people have done, I get sent tagged in photos and videos and GoPro footage and all sorts of shit every single day. It's fascinating what people, and I just steal ideas. And I thought I was pretty nuts, but you should see some
I assume it's all PG, mate, as well, right?
No, half it's.
All right, that's after 10 p.m. podcast.
Where do we get the book? Where do we get the book, Trav?
Oh, they just go to the bucket list guide.com/book, and that's an autograph copy. I'll send it out.
We'll make sure that we have the link in the notes as well. Now, just one question. If you were to go back, of all the lessons that you've learned over your journey with your challenges, putting tattooing on yourself, having these incredible life-changing experiences, becoming that person on the other side of those experiences, if you were to go back to yourself, when you were in your teens perhaps, or maybe when you were 18 and you started writing that list and had one piece of advice to give yourself, what would that be?
Look, it's always a good question. I answer it differently every single time. But to be honest, I would have saved more money, and I would have got into the property market a hell of a lot earlier. so I know that one.
You're listening, kids.
Yeah, you're listening, kids. I've got 4 kids.
I don't think they can unwind interest rates anymore.
No, and probably when I was that age, the interest rates would have been really, really bad.
17%.
So yeah. Look, I would have got into that because obviously you can leverage a lot of stuff through having some equity, and I would have I would have allowed myself to get obsessed more. I would have allowed myself to go even harder than I did. And I would have tried a lot of different things, a lot more things, to see where my passions lie. And I would have, and now we've got the advent of social media, what I would have done is identified 1, 2, maybe 3 people that are the role models who personify that thing that I want to do, and just literally work for them for free, just as an internship, just to get around that, to understand their psychology, read everything that they've done, do all their programs, pay to play if you have to, but at the end of the day, just get in their world, understand their psychology. I'll give you an example, and this is, again, the stuff that I'm saying right now is the stuff that I say to my kids. I've got a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old, 23-year-old, and 2 14-year-old boys that live with us. And giving this advice to the boys, they're smart, they're way smarter than me, and they're 14, and they're obsessed with Elon Musk. I said, mate, like we got him the book for Christmas. Went through the book in like no time. They subscribed to his channels. They know everything about a Tesla. We went for a Tesla test drive not too long ago. They understand how even the coding language. They've learnt coding. They're developing me an app at the moment, and they're just obsessed. I'm like, so if there's an opportunity to become an engineer with Tesla, would you take it up? Yep. Like, it's just that obsession, and I was never given that kind of advice.
It's awesome advice, mate. And it's great to see them embarking on that journey already. And it's one of the challenges when you're a parent and you've got this view on life and the benefit of this experience, and you look back at your kids and you've got to appreciate that they have to have their journey too. And I always find that a challenge with my kids. There's only so much you can tell them. But look, this podcast is going to go forever. And we might have to do a part 2, boys. What do you think? In a couple of months or something, and we'll talk about we'll do the parenting podcast or something. But Trav, mate, thanks so much again for coming on the show. We've had 2 D&Ms now, and they keep going. So I'll go
therapy, mate.
I'll go see if I can get my gun license and what we can do about that.
Let's look it up.
The shock and awe event.
Yeah, I don't think the PR would be real good around that. But
well, it'd certainly get on the news. Yeah.
Current affairs.
And that wraps up another episode of The Few. Thank you to our partners, Afterburner, for team building, development and alignment. We understand now how important it is to have the right people around you. Get them on board with where you want to go. Momentum Media, the largest industry publisher in the country, connecting your business to the Australian community. ICMI, Australia's premier speaker bureau, representing the few that do fulfill their life's purpose. And finally, Sean's Inner Circle, the business coaching organisation for small and medium enterprises looking to make that next step. Thanks again for listening in and downloading today. Please leave a review on whatever platform you are currently listening to this podcast, and reach out to our partners who can help you make the transition to the few.
Awesome, Trav. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great conversation, and there's plenty of lessons that our listeners and viewers will be able to take away. So thank you again.
My absolute pleasure, guys. Thanks heaps for having me on. Love to do a round 2 with you guys.